Welcome back to this week's episode of Students on Campus, hosted by Bella McClintock
and Justin Fry.
This past week of May 15th, summer registration opened. Make sure to check your portals to ensure you sign up for summer classes. Tuesday, there was a Run, Hide, and Defend course. There was also a Ethics in the Age of Artificial Intelligence seminar, and there was the Spring Career Fair on Wednesday at 1 p.m. in the Sunken Garden. This upcoming week of May 22nd, Tuesday at noon to 2 p.m. in the Multicultural Center, the Momentum Series event has guest speaker, author, and activist Curtis Chin. Wednesday, the University of Silicon Valley will be tabling in the Student Dining Center starting at 11:30 a.m. Thursday, there will be a Jewish American Heritage Month celebration online. Join on Zoom from 1 to 3 p.m. Friday, come to campus for the Multicultural Fair. It will start at 2 p.m. and end at 7:30 p.m. Come join us for food and festivities. The event is hosted by the Anza student government. And the following week will be Memorial Day weekend, so there will be no class on Monday the 22nd. You can find more information about the events listed at the Anza website. Look under the events calendar and click events by month.
We're going to be getting into a new section here, which we haven't done on the podcast before. Let's Ask Students on Campus. Joining me for the Let's Ask Students on Campus section is...
Hi, my name is Gina Munoz. I'm a news reporter for La Voz News.
So, in this section, we're going to be receiving some student questions, which we're going to be giving a little advice to. Think of a Dear Abby kind of vibe. So, our first question is, how do I balance school, work, and also have time for myself? This is kind of a difficult question because people have different things going on in their lives. I know for myself, sometimes I can't balance school, work, and have time for myself. Sometimes I just don't have time for myself, you know. Gina, do you have any...
I'm gonna be honest. Zendaya said once... Wait, what is Zendaya said? Oh, I don't know. Do what you love, basically. You know, so for example, at least for me, I'm balancing, you know, like school and doing whatever I want and work because like I really enjoy journalism, right? So it's like I enjoy coming to school and like doing journalism. And that's like a good way to balance because like technically journalism is my hobby. So it's like I'm multitasking, right? I'm doing two things at once. So I feel like that could definitely work. Like if you are not enjoying what you're doing, or if you're not enjoying what you're doing, then like I recommend maybe like trying some classes that like truly, you know, will awake that passion, that inner passion you have inside. So that way you don't have to like find for ways to balance school and yourself and work. You can only balance school, which already contains like what your hobbies, and work. Hopefully. So I think that could work. But again, it really depends on like personal circumstances.
Yeah, you kind of have to set it up for yourself because it's not something which you can change right now. You might have to develop this for yourself over maybe not just the next quarter, but just the years to come. Because I know people that, you know, it's like, okay, you know, you're a single mother, you have to work, and you have to go to school. You don't really have any time for yourself, you know, so kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place a lot of the time.
No, yeah, definitely. And I also feel like it's important to like almost like give yourself time and space, you know, forgive yourself for like not being perfect, you know. Okay, like I'm a 4th year student. Like I've been at the Anza since I was 18. I'm 22 now, you know. And like all this time I used to feel like so frustrated in the beginning at like how slow I was moving with my career path. But it's like I have to give myself some compassion, you know. It's like life is not the same for everyone. I have to like give myself some slack, honestly. Like take a break, you know, like I gotta if I gotta fail some classes, be on probation, whatever it is, give yourself a break because you need it. So if you feel like you cannot balance, I feel like that's a good moment to like maybe rethink your choices and like maybe how much you're working, or maybe like if you need to work that much, like maybe how many classes you're taking. I think maybe rethinking a little bit and giving yourself some like a little break, that could definitely work. Every once in a while, like we all need a break.
For sure. I definitely feel like at Anza we can really get into, the very go mindset, because this is a primarily transfer school, so they want to be getting you in and out as fast as possible. So we kind of need to take it upon ourselves sometimes to get that slowdown, and bring back, a little happiness in your life. And maybe you don't need to take that extra class. You only need 12 credits to be a full-time student.
No, yeah, for sure. And it's like if you are gonna take an extra class, make it a fun class. Make it something that you will actually enjoy. And if you don't enjoy it, drop that shit. Honestly, drop that shit.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to stay. Especially if you don't need the points.
Oh, for sure. We got yoga, we got Pilates, I think we got bowling.
No, yeah, literally. And we have like so many fun clubs too, like the LGBTQ plus Alliance Club. Like they're always holding like really fun things like karaoke, etc., etc. The Burmese Student Association Club, like they're also doing like fun things.
For sure. And later in the interview, Isabel does talk about that, about getting involved on campus through our community organizations and our clubs. Okay, our next question is, my major is still undecided. How do I find something I'm truly interested in and want to do for the rest of my life? Well, we can ponder that for a moment.
Wow. No, yeah, because that's a hard question. I'm going to be honest, because it's like, I don't even relate to that because I've chose my major since I was like 12. So that's a difficult one. I need to think about that.
Yeah, for myself, I'm in a similar boat. I think I came up with being a poli-sci major in maybe junior year of high school.
Okay, so I feel like we should definitely normalize not knowing what the fuck is going on. I feel like we should definitely deconstruct this idea that we have to get it over with by your mid-20s or by your early 20s. It's like, if you don't know what your major is, like, school is fucking expensive. And honestly, if you need time to figure out what works for you, take the time. You don't need to go to school right now, and you don't need to like choose a major right now. Definitely. Because like I see so many people that choose majors that don't work for them, and then they spend all this money, they get in all this debt, only to then like go back to school and study another major that works best for them, or dedicate their lives to like a different career while they still have this debt, right? If you have the resources to just like study and spend all this money on like education, I definitely encourage you to like, hey, you know what, go with the flow. But if you don't, and you need a break, and you need time to like explore your options, you need time to maybe work on different fields and like find out and like this and like find yourself and find what you're like, take the time. There is not like a time limit for when you have to like study. Yeah. I feel like
for myself, I set myself on political science really after I was able to get a paid internship here on the Anza campus. And because of that, I was able to kind of like try it on for size. And we have so many of those groups on campus that you can get involved in and figure out where your passion lays.
Okay, well, definitely, I will also advise, like, for your major, choose something that you see yourself doing the rest of your life for. For example, for me, it's not like I see myself for the rest of my life, doing journalism. But I do see myself for the rest of my life being involved, wanting to be involved in my community, right? I do see myself for the rest of my life fighting for like community issues, fighting for affordable housing and going to town hall meetings and going to protests and doing this and that. I do see myself in the future like taking pictures. I love taking pictures, even though I'm not good at it. So I feel like these are aspects that actually fit really well into journalism, which is why I chose journalism as a career, because I definitely do see myself maybe not doing journalism for the rest of my life, but doing some of the aspects that journalism entails for the rest of my life. And that's how I've applied some of like my personal life things into my career. So maybe like try to like find out like what do you see yourself doing for the rest of your life. So whatever you see yourself doing, I don't know, maybe it's working with kids. Maybe you really like working with kids. Maybe you really like working with the elderly, or maybe you like working by yourself. right? So try to look for like careers that like match who you are. If it doesn't, then like it's just occur and then like you get like a midlife crisis. Or actually, I don't know, maybe like I think we're all gonna get a midlife crisis anyways.
Oh, definitely. I think that what we can
Oh shit, sorry.
I think that what we can really gain out of this though is that it's okay to slow down and try things on. You know, we're not set in our current identities, and we can always grow as people, and we can always grow in our interests. We have a lot of great resources on campus, and part of that is to find out who you are.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with Justine. Take your time, find what you want, find what you like. And yeah, you know, it's like, I feel like there's honestly nothing wrong with like being undecided and not knowing what to do. Because it's definitely a hard choice to be like, hey, what the heck, you know? So yeah, take your time, forget about the stigma, you know, it's okay.
Thank you for listening to this initial segment of Let's Ask Students on Campus. You can submit questions via the email provided in the show notes. Thank you for listening. We're going to be going into the interview now.
All right, our special guest this week is Isabel. Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Isabel Caballero Teixeira. I am a biology major, and I am 26.
So nice to have you. So you are a first-generation Latina student.
Yes.
We're so excited to have you here with us. We're just going to ask you some questions about what it's like to be a student here at De Anza and your experience being a first-generation Latina student.
Nice. I'm excited.
So what brought you to become a student at De Anza?
So initially, my partner actually went to De Anza, and he ended up eventually graduating and getting his BA in engineering. And he talked and raved about how well De Anza was suited and how the resources really helped him and prepared him and other students for success when going into a university.
Before community college, did you have a plan for your education?
Honestly, so I'm 26, and that means that obviously I took a couple gap years. Originally, I did not have a plan. My only goal was to be able to work and support my family. Unfortunately, we were in a situation where my mother couldn't necessarily support us. So myself and my brother and sister had to work. And then it got to the point where my mother and I were supporting my sister as she went to college, and my brother as he was living his young adult life and, you know, working as well.
I also think it's so great that you and your brother both come to campus together.
Yes.
Isabel's brother, Junior, is always hanging around. He's such a delight to be around. So I think it's so nice to have like a sibling duo that are like the coolest. Had you heard of any of the programs at De Anza beforehand, such as Vida or Jefas at all?
Honestly, no. The only reason I'm even acquainted with Vida and Jefas now are because I go to school here, but prior I was completely unaware.
Do you feel like these resources that are on campus are supportive to you?
Most definitely. So thankfully, I was perfectly situated in a situation to where I was able to actually attend a internship over at Stanford in the neurology department. And this specific internship was actually brought to me by one of the counselors at the time. I think this was about a year ago, that was running Jefas or Vida that were associated with it. And it was specifically for Latinx and African American students to apply, and then they would eventually get their foot in the door at Stanford and in the neurology labs, which is an amazing experience. And normally you can't get into those situations if not for nepotism or just having the right connections. And unfortunately, like me being a returning student and not being situated like familially in a situation where I have these connections. So De Anza offering these programs and fostering these programs really, really honestly changed my life. I was able to realize that I could one day be a doctor.
Yeah, I think it's incredible that you had an internship with Stanford. So can you talk a little bit about your internship since you are a STEM student? And I know most of the time on our podcast we have a lot of liberal arts majors or business majors. And I think you're our first STEM major. So can you talk a little bit about that and what the opportunities you have with De Anza are?
Yeah, most definitely. So first off, the internship was phenomenal, honestly. So I was able to take a class on campus at Stanford, getting the basics of neurology, which again I hadn't been privy to prior. And of course, I don't go to Stanford, so that was amazing. And then the internship itself, I was able to work under a principal investigator, which is a PhD law, not law professor. I'm sorry, a PhD medical professor who's running his own research lab. And the research lab that we were doing was to bioengineer stem cells as a novel treatment to stroke therapy, because currently there is no therapy for strokes. And then just being a STEM student in general, speaking to that, the amount of resources I'm able to have, not only like thankfully now that the villages are open and you can go and hang out and be around these like-minded people, and also, you know, have community in that sense. Like if I am struggling with physics or if I'm struggling with chemistry, I know I can go there and the people there will most likely know what's going on, as well as the tutoring centers that are really specified and have these different people that are specialized in, you know, what you're looking for.
Have you joined the MPS, the Math Program for Success?
I have actually. I did my my first year. I took pre-calculus and calculus 1A as an MPS course, and they were phenomenal, genuinely phenomenal. And I'm actually applying for one of the scholarships that they're offering.
Oh, nice. I didn't even know they had scholarships.
Yeah, every year they award $500 to 4 MPS students under the criteria that you have taken a certain number of units, you're an MPS student, and that you're 18 years of age. So it's not a lot of criteria. You know, the MPS program in general is just very looking to resource.
So you're a student representative in one of the shared governance committees here on campus. Can you talk about your role and what shared governance is?
Yeah, so let me first speak to what shared governance is. And in a higher education setting, it is when the faculty, professional staff, administration, sometimes governing boards, students, all get together in a forum to develop policies, make decisions, big decisions, especially like the one I'm in, which is the Measure G task force, which is tasked with coming up with a specific plan of what's going to happen with the arts buildings, with the student services buildings, as well as the possibility of an event center coming onto our campus.
And this is regarding the Measure G kind of group that was working towards getting a shared governance committee during winter quarter, right?
Yeah. This was a result of the end of winter quarter and the beginning of the spring quarter. All of the forums that were held, all of the protests showing up at the Board of Trustees. There was at one point a sum of about 80 students and faculty at the Board of Trustees meeting, letting them know that what previously was going on in the structures they had to make these plans was not adequate and did not take their opinions or how this will affect them into consideration.
I think this is really great that something that the students have worked for has come to fruition, especially me, you, and Justin. All three of us worked really hard on this last quarter. This is something we were all really involved in. I think it's really great that we were able to make some change, but we need to, keep working to ensure lasting change.
Yeah, most definitely. So one of the biggest things that for the average student I would suggest is to just keep up with what's going on. There is a Measure G page at the Foothill De Anza Administration website. They post their updates, and what will most likely happen is we will, in the future be speaking about this every single time at the Board of Trustees meeting. So they give updates. We are expected to give our first update May 31st. So once that update is posted, and just having students keep on top of it, as well as the people in the shared governance task force, like myself, making sure that the rest of the student body is aware. So personally for me, if anything happens or anything is veering toward an issue where student voices, where professor voices aren't being heard, then at that point, take matters into our own hands and use the proper channels, of course, but make sure that everything is being laid out there on the table, and that there is no lack of transparency, that the transparency is fully transparent, for lack of a better word.
I think advocating for students is so important, especially when it feels like we don't have a seat at the table or a voice in the conversation. So we've talked a lot about what you do, and how you got involved in campus, especially with some of our organizations here. But do you have any plans for after De Anza? Are you going to transfer? Are you going to go become a businesswoman, become a nurse, become a researcher?
Yeah. So my overall plan is obviously to transfer and then eventually go to med school. I haven't necessarily decided if I want to go to the research route. I do have experience in research, and I genuinely do love the work. It's really, really mentally stimulating, and it's really exciting. But there's a large part of me that wants to be just not regular is the wrong word, but to be a physician and to just help people. And I think that they're both really, really admirable and very exciting possible career choices that I have not yet weighed the pros and cons of.
How do you feel De Anza has prepared you for your next steps in your education and in your career?
So I think with De Anza, coming to De Anza, I came from a high school that was very, very heavily underfunded. And that also meant that sometimes my teachers just weren't necessarily up to the par. And that meant that, the studying practices I had prior were not there. And my time management was not there, just because the curriculum wasn't really challenging in that sense. So coming to De Anza and following the curriculum and being able to take advantage of these resources really taught me time management. It taught me the proper way to study. And to be honest, I was a little cocky. I didn't used to study in high school. I floated by. Luckily, I'm relatively smart, book smart at least. My friends would say. Luckily, I was book smart, so I was able to just grasp concepts and call it a day. But now that I'm getting into a higher level education where I am not able to grasp everything 100% right after it's shown, I definitely went through an adjustment period of, learning the proper ways to study, learning time management, and how to figure out and navigate through courses like unfortunately physics that I am not the best at.
That's why I'm a liberal arts major. Are there any schools that you want to transfer to?
Yeah. So obviously I would love to go back to Stanford.
I would love to see you at Stanford.
But their transfer rate is very, very intimidating. But if not, UC Berkeley and UC Riverside actually have both of them have really great research opportunities and research programs for their undergraduates that I am highly, highly interested in.
What's something you wish you had known coming into De Anza that you would give advice to others?
So 2 things, actually. The first thing is to just do your own research when it comes to the transfer process. There are great resources online like guided pathways and things like that to make sure that you set up your plan for graduation on time, and so you're able to get through that. But another thing is also just to get involved in community. We've talked a lot about how I'm a STEM major and about how courses are and things like that. But, I also am in FAPAC, which is the Political Action Arm Committee. And we did talk about shared governance and things like that. But, get involved in your community. You can make a difference in what's going on around you, and don't be intimidated by that. And also I've found amazing friends like you, Bella, and you, Justin.
Yes, we love having you here.
But also just, the feeling of community in colleges, I think is something super, undervalued right now. And while I love the hybrid ability to be able to work and go to classes online, I think that, making some time to be on campus and making some time to be a part of that community, the campus community, is really important.
Yeah, I think coming back to campus was a huge factor for me. Like, just being a part of the community has changed so much. And, you know, without it, we wouldn't be doing this podcast. So, you know, I think I agree that coming back to campus is really fundamental for college students, especially because we're all growing and we're all young adults. So I think it's nice to have some relationships with people the same age as you and the same path as you.
Yeah, just don't forget to have fun. You know, De Anza, aside from all the great opportunities and great internships and programs that they offer, please take advantage of all of the fun activities on campus. Like, we have a planetarium. What community college has a planetarium? That's so cool.
They do laser shows to Pink Floyd. It's amazing. I really recommend it. I can't say how much money it is because I don't know off the top of my head, but it's relatively affordable.
Yeah, and they also have like just the events that DASG promotes, like decorating jeans or decorating rocks.
Yeah, they always have like stress week activities that are so cute, like rock painting. This Friday, upcoming Friday, there's going to be a multicultural fair, which is going to be like a night market. And
yeah,
as always,
really
I love
cool.
The flea market. The flea market is my jam. I always go there and buy jewelry.
But yeah, like take advantage of those. Those are really, really fun, and they're most of the time free.
And there's a lot of community events around the area that, like you said, are free or, you know, affordable. So once again, here we have
Isabel Caballero Teixeira.
That was our special guest of the week. Thank you so much for coming onto our podcast, Isabel.
No problem. Thank you guys so much for having me. It was great.
And every week we're going to highlight some resources for students on campus. This includes the mobile food pantry, housing assistance, health and psychological services, and transportation services. Every student gets a VTA SmartPass/Clipper card. HEFOS through VITA has resources for undocumented students. The Pride Center on campus with the LGBTQ Center has many resources for those in the community. There is a health center with psychological counselors and therapy. And as always, come join Lavos. Lavos is De Anza's student-run newspaper and has been the voice of De Anza since 1967. This podcast is written by Isabel McClintock, recorded by Isabel McClintock and Justin Fry, edited and produced by Justin Fry.